Hi, and welcome to the Business Pioneer Podcast. I'm your host, Erica Montgomery, founder and CEO of Three Girls Media Inc., an award winning digital marketing agency. We're sitting down today with Anna Ludwinowski, a seasoned entrepreneur with over 32 years of
Yee.
business experience across four industries. Anna is now a strategic business coach, and she helps solopreneurs, coaches, and fractional executives find clarity to grow their businesses and define who they serve. She's got a background in manufacturing, retail, e-commerce, and consulting, and brings a wealth of knowledge and a really unique perspective to business strategy. Anna, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Wow, that's a glowing endorsement. What an intro.
Well, it's simply
Thanks.
well deserved given your background. My goodness.
Yeah.
So, tell me a little bit about your consulting practice.
Oh, yeah. This is what I kind of feel like everything was sort of leading up to this moment. I started probably about not quite 3 years ago, 2.5, 3-ish years ago. And it actually came completely, this wasn't planned or anything, but I was talking with a customer in my other company, and she said, unbeknownst to her that I was the owner, she says, you're really good at talking with people. You should become a coach. And I just started laughing as I thought to myself, okay, I kind of have a lot going on already, so I'm good for now. But I think it just planted the seed, and it just I never thought of it before, right? But I do love talking with people. I love uh, taking them from a point of ripping their hair out to a point of, yes, I can do this. So um I think that was just the start of it. And as I thought more about it, I thought, okay, no, you know what? I think I can do this. So it just happened very organically.
Amazing. And that was 32 years ago that you started coaching?
No, no, 3 oh, no, gosh, no, not that long ago. My first business, I've been an entrepreneur for 32 years.
I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
that oh, yeah, that's been a lifelong, journey. It's kind of funny, people come to entrepreneurship from different angles, from corporate, from, education, all sorts of thing, and this is the only gig I've ever known, so I come I come by it honestly, I guess.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about the type of coaching you provide and how you work with the various clients that you support.
For sure. Oh gosh. For every kind of business coach that's out there, we all have a different angle. We all have a different outlook on things. We work in different ways. And my thing actually also came by honestly was I really struggled with clarity. And I know that's one of
Mm.
those kind of trendy buzzwords and people are like clarity this, clarity, what does it actually mean? And I struggled with it in my other businesses. I never really had it until quite a ways down the road. And I really believe that would have made the biggest difference. Had I been clear on who I serve, how do I help them, what am I there, what are the processes that I use to help them with that? I think if I'd had that earlier, it would have been I would have been a lot more successful, a lot quicker. And
Mm.
so the more I talk to other people, the more I realize, you know what? That's it's the unsexy part, as I call it, right? It's like boring, but we want to get to the fun part. And I use the example of building a house, right? You can't be painting walls and picking out drapes and all that kind of stuff until you've built the foundation of your house, right? And so I think of clarity as the foundation of your business. You can't be doing all the fun marketing and social media and all this other stuff if you're not clear on who you serve and how you do it. Those are like the fundamentals. And so that's what I help people with. And this could be people who are new to business. One of my favorite types of clients right now are fractionals because they're ex corporate. They're
Mhm.
leaving a very different structure and going into entrepreneurship, and even they don't have clarity, and this is the thing that they've been doing in their employment for years.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter, you don't have to be new. I had a client who's been in this for 7 years, and she said, I never had clarity about who I serve because I always thought, well, I help anybody. right?
Yeah.
As we often say.
Right? And
Um,
that's so interesting because
yeah.
I was in a networking meeting
Mhm.
yesterday, and one of our topics of conversation was target audiences and who you
Oh, yeah.
serve.
Yeah.
And I was saying that it kind of drives me crazy when I do consultations with potential customers at Three Girls Media and I
Yeah.
ask them, who do you serve? And they say,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
I can work with any kind of a business. Well, yeah, I
Uh-huh.
mean, I'm sure you can,
Yeah.
so can I. But the point is, who is your target audience, which is a
Yeah.
different question and
Totally
very
different.
specific. And
Yeah.
unless you have that identified, and even if you
Oh,
can serve everyone, but really knowing who are you going to market to? Who is
exactly.
that core number one client that you
Yep.
really want to go after, that you really want to focus on?
Yeah.
And try to build your business on, it can be a real challenge
Oh, for
because
sure.
by serving quote unquote everyone, you're serving no one in a
Mhm.
sense, right?
Yeah. And I we hear that phrase a lot, and you kind of like, what does that actually mean? You're not serving anyone, but it
Mm,
does. And well, I don't have to tell you, if that messaging isn't clear to that specific person, that message gets lost on everybody. That's what that means. Is
mhm.
you're not actually connecting with anybody in particular, right? So, and the client that I referenced earlier that has been in business for 7 years. Well, she felt she could only have one ICP, and this is where she struggled, one ideal client profile. And that's where she struggled. And I disagree with that. I think you can have more than one. I have three
Sure.
myself, but the messaging is crystal clear for each one of them.
Mhm.
And that's the difference. So
Yes,
can I target more than one person? Absolutely, but it has to be really clear so that one person understands exactly what I'm saying. That's
that's right.
that's a big differentiator, right?
Yeah, and I love the fact that you said you can serve more than one
Oh, for
audience. It's a
sure.
matter of having a clear definition
Mhm.
of what that audience is, what that persona is, and that's actually something that I recommend to our clients if they haven't gone through the exercise of
Yeah.
creating an ideal client persona.
Perfect, yeah. Gotta
Down
start
to
there.
gender, age range, hobbies, where do they
Mhm.
shop, the whole, what
Yeah.
social media platforms do they use, the whole
Yeah.
kit and caboodle. So you get a really good idea of their lifestyle and how it's
Mhm.
best to market to them. And it's an exercise that we walk our clients through.
For sure. I would add one thing to that, and this is something that I kind of, trial and error figured out was you also have to think of how they identify themselves.
Mm,
How do they describe themselves, right? I can describe you as this, but how do you see yourself? And so my three ICPs, I work with solopreneurs, coaches, and fractional executives. If you really boil it down, those are all solopreneurs.
yeah.
But a fractional doesn't always identify themselves as a solopreneur, and that's why I separate that one out.
Hmm.
Right? And a solopreneur might not look at themselves and think that they're a fractional, but they might be.
Hmm.
So yes, I'm kind of dealing with the same ICP, but because they identify themselves differently, I strategically changed my messaging to target them specifically in how they see themselves. And that's a really
Smart.
key one, right? Because we make assumptions on this side of the fence, right? But what's actually happening on the other side? That's something to think about.
Yeah, I think that's really, really smart. So, beyond identifying a target audience, which
Mhm.
I think is absolutely key for any business,
Yep.
regardless of what size you are or whether you're a solopreneur or, it doesn't really matter. You've got to know who your target customer is.
Oh, for
I'm
sure.
curious, about the other types of things that you help your clients with. That sounds like a great starting place. But
It
once you've
is.
got that
Yeah.
target audience figured out, what's next when it comes to working with them?
I would say, well, golly, there's any number of different things, but I would say one of the biggest stumbling blocks that a lot of them have is even once we figured out who their ICP is, They go, "Well, it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. Where do I even
Mhm.
find these people?" And
Mm.
I'm sort of referring to LinkedIn specifically. That's where I live. That's where most of my clients are. Um, and you kinda go, "There's a billion people on this platform." It could feel like you're looking for a needle in a haystack,
Yeah.
right? And my whole philosophy is let's make this as simple as possible. I love the analogy of low-hanging fruit. Why are we climbing ladders to get to the top when we can start with the low-hanging fruit, right? And I mean that in a nice way. I don't mean that to be derogatory or anything. And so I kind of go, well, you've got a profile, you've got followers, you've got connections. Why are they following you?
Mm.
So there's obviously something of interest. So why are we looking out there when we can look right here? Go through your followers. Even if you have 500 followers, never mind tens of thousands. Let's just say you've got 500 followers. Can you imagine standing in a room with 500 people? That's a lot of people,
It's a
right?
lot of people.
Are you gonna connect with all of them? No, probably not. And do all of them wanna be your best friend? No, probably not. But
Mhm.
somewhere in those 500, there's gonna be your ICP hanging out because they're following you for a reason. Why don't
Mhm.
you start there? So this is the
Yeah.
kind of stuff that I kinda go, "Well, why don't we start with the easy stuff first? Let's get some
Mhm.
traction. Let's get some momentum. Let's get some consistency happening," right? So, yeah, that's probably one of the bigger ones is where to find their ICP. Pricing? Oh my golly. People don't know how to price themselves, right?
Mm.
And, I'm anti-discount. Just like ju
Ah.
I have removed that I only used it now because I had to use it, but I've removed that word from my vocabulary. I don't believe in discounts.
Tell me
Never,
about that.
ever. Oh, golly. This comes from my retail days where, it's like a race to the bottom. When Michael's, the craft stores,
Mhm.
first came to, Canada here, um, it you everybody they actually, trained their customers to wait for the Friday flyer that had the, uh, 50% off coupon in it. People actually
Mhm.
wouldn't go shopping during the week until the coupon came out. So all you did was train your customers to wait for it. Well, that's
Mhm.
kinda goofy, isn't it, right?
Yeah.
So that's ever since then, I've been very anti-discount because you're actually cheapening yourself. And when
Ah.
you're in a professional services, whether you're a C-suite or a coach, consultant, whatever you are, you're a professional person, right? Do you walk into a Chanel store looking for a discount? No, because
Mm.
they're a premium product. Well, when you're a professional service, you're a premium product. Right? Discounting you becomes now you're the Walmart. Well, now you're just like everybody else. What's the difference,
Mm.
right?
Yeah, good
So
point.
I would much rather, and I will always recommend this. I've had one one client fight me tooth and nail on this, and they went with the discount. I went, okay, that's up to you. But I would much rather see you do a value add. Have a
Ah.
pricing structure, and then if you want an upgrade, you probably seen it, VIP upgrade or,
Mhm.
this is an add-on or an à la carte setup where you can value add, different components and stuff.
Mhm.
I'd much rather see that because now you're not cheapening. You're actually giving the message, "Look how much value I'm actually bringing to you." So it's
I
it's a
love that
it's a little
idea.
bit of a shift, but I think it's
Sure.
really important. So that's
Yeah.
another key thing we talk about a lot. I
Yeah.
help clients with.
Yeah, and I can see where pricing for businesses that offer services as opposed to products
Yep.
can be more challenging to figure out pricing for. I think, if you've got a product, it can be easier because obviously you've got cost of goods and labor and then your overhead, and it's a relatively easier
Yeah,
formula to figure out.
for
But if you're
sure.
a service based industry,
Yeah,
how do you figure out pricing? What tips do you have for clients around that?
for sure. And it's kind of a delicate balance. I mean, we don't have some manual book that we open up and go, "Oh, well, this kind of a coach should be charging, this range or this range." So I mean, I do recommend you look to see what your um colleagues would be in the range of. Not that you're using that as the be all end all, but
Mhm.
it kind of gives you a little bit of an idea in how they position themselves too. But I look at it as is it's if you boil it down to what is your time worth for an hour, right?
Mhm.
What is it worth to you based on the experiences that you've had? And there is a certain amount of the more you're going to charge, the more someone's gonna look at that and go, "Well, wow, there's gotta be some good value, otherwise she wouldn't be charging $500 an hour or $1,000 an hour," or something like that.
Mhm.
Now, the caveat to that is you have to bring $500 worth of value
Ah, yes.
if that's what you're gonna charge. I'm not saying, "Oh, hey, just pull out numbers out of the air." Um,
Right.
but for someone who's got, experience, who's got, logged the miles, has the credentials in whatever format that takes, that is worth something to someone. It's always gonna
Mhm.
be what is somebody willing to pay for that. And I know that, pricing can change, of course, but also offering a variety of price points. It's really hard to meet someone, they don't know you, we don't have that like, no trust factor built in yet, and you're asking them to spend $1,000 for a 30-minute phone call with you.
Mhm.
That's gonna be a tough sell, I gotta tell you.
Yeah.
But having something where there's an intro, kind of like a value ladder, right? Something introductory gives them a little taste, something a little more that gives them a little bit more actionable stuff, and then maybe your one-on-one or something like that as your premium offering. There's a lot of different ways of looking at it for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and I love that whole concept of the value add and kind of the different tiered
That's a big one.
structures. Yeah, I think
Big,
that
big.
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
would say it's worked very well. It's worked well for me. It's worked well for the clients that we put in a proper strategy like that.
Mhm.
Um, it just it puts you into a different category, right? And I always use my Chanel and Walmart category, analogies, right? Y- y- it, the two of those don't align, right? You're either one or you're the other, right? So you kind of have to decide that ahead of time.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, Anna, what would you say are your biggest challenges as a coach?
Oh, myself personally. Oh, that's a really good question. Um, I would say probably the biggest challenge right now, and has been for a little while, is there are a lot of business coaches out there who
Mhm.
are business coaches and not legit. Now they could be
Ah.
legit, but they're not seasoned professionals,
Mhm.
anybody you don't have to have accreditation. You don't. And I don't know that you necessarily need to, but it's really hard when you're competing with these coaches. I always put that in quotes, right? That say, "Oh, you know what? I work an hour a month. I'm making money hand over fist. My accounts are overflowing. I get to hang out on my yacht in Ibiza every day."
Mm.
And you sit there and you go, "No, you're not. That's a load of garbage." It
Mhm.
really is. And so you have those kind of people out there ruining it, they truly are because those are scams. They really are. And
Yeah.
then you've got people like myself who are legitimate. I have 32 years of entrepreneur experience. Like I'm not
Mhm.
making that up. You can check it out. It's legit.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm not making promises. I'm not promising you $1,000,000 or 20 clients by the end of our time together. I can't
Mhm.
do that. No one can. You can make that promise to yourself, but
Mhm.
I can't do that for you. And so I think it's the public perception. There's a lot we have to do there. And I think a lot of people are fairly well educated in understanding, what's a scam and what's not. But
Yeah.
it's still out there. It's prevalent.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I think something you said is critically important, which is experience matters. It really,
Sure
really
does.
matters.
Yep.
I was talking to, somebody else in the last few days, another digital marketer, and they had only been doing it for like 6 or 8 months and were purporting themselves to be sort of the end all be all know all
Mm,
because they know how to use social media and do this and do
perfect.
that. And I'm like, great. But I literally have been doing this now for 20 years.
Yeah.
I've been in business for myself for 20 years. And
Very different. Very
and
different.
and there's a reason why we aren't the Walmart of pricing, like you mentioned, when it
Absolutely.
comes
You
to
shouldn't
digital
be.
marketing agencies. And
Yeah.
there are those out there, right?
Yeah.
But experience matters, quality matters.
Mhm.
And regardless of the industry you're in, whether it's marketing, whether it's coaching, you've really got to look at who you're working with. What are they bringing to the table? How
Yeah.
long have they been doing what they've been doing? And what were
Oh,
they doing
yeah.
before that that gives them the experience to do what they're doing now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly, I think there's so much that people, when they go to hire service providers, don't take into consideration, and
Mhm.
questions that they don't ask, that they
Well,
really
yeah.
should ask.
That's actually a huge point.
Yeah.
It'd be like going to buy a car and never taking out for a test drive and just going, "Oh, here, take my money. Let's just
Yes.
just give me whatever car you wanna give me."
Mhm.
And you kinda go and I'm sure you've heard them too, but I've had clients and just colleagues and acquaintances that have been ripped off for
Yes.
thousands of dollars.
Yes.
Thousands. Like, we're okay, 50 bucks, I don't know, maybe a couple hundred, okay, that's too bad it wasn't what you thought, but when you're talking thousands or tens of thousands of
Mhm.
dollars, okay, now that you gotta be asking some better questions because that's crazy, right? Um
100%.
and a friend of mine, likened it, and I always use her example, it's like hiring a life coach that actually is like a 22-year-old guy that lives in his parents' basement, right? Are you going to take when a single guy, no less, are you gonna take advice from this person? Like,
Yeah.
what makes you that position? What again, like you said, what brought you to this point? What
Mhm.
skills have you acquired that now put you into this expertise, right? Like,
Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
gotta investigate that. I really
100%.
that's huge.
If I had a dime for every time I talked to a potential client that told me, we hired some, marketing
Mm,
agency, they charged us tens of thousands of dollars, we
mhm.
never heard from them, we have no idea what they did
Mm,
for us, it was an absolute disappointment and disaster, and we completely lost faith in the
yeah,
marketing industry.
and
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 I've
they
got to come in,
do.
they do,
That's
and
the
I've got
sad
to try
part.
to, yeah, come in and pick up the
Ah,
pieces and
yeah,
say,
yeah.
we're not all created equal.
No,
And here's now steps that I have put in place with Three Girls Media to
yeah,
ensure that you don't have that experience. And here's
exactly.
exactly what you can expect from us. But
Yeah.
it's sad, and it's sad to hear that there's that in the coaching industry. And,
Oh,
I'm guessing
I
a
think
lot of
I'm sure
industries.
it is. I mean, I'm familiar with the coaching industry and my gosh, you could hop on to LinkedIn to some degree, but Instagram, oh my goodness,
Mhm,
you could hop on there and every single, you know, business coach, they're on some yacht in some tropical place, and you're like,
mhm.
"Well, that's great. I'm great. I'm glad you can go on vacation, but don't be sitting there telling me you work 1 hour a month and this is what you're
Yeah.
pulling in." Or if by some miracle you are, what led up to this? You didn't just roll
Mhm.
out of bed and decide this is what's gonna happen, and money started pouring in. It doesn't
Yeah.
work like that. But then it makes it hard for the yous and me's of the world to come in and pick up those pieces afterwards, right? Because now you're sitting there going, "But I am legit, and I'm asking you to take a chance on that." And that can be a pretty hard sell,
It
right?
can be a really hard
Yeah,
sell. Absolutely.
yeah.
So, what is next for you and your business? Where are you going from here?
Man, I tell you, some days, I just wanna do everything.
Mhm.
Just you're just like, "I wanna do everything." Um, I really love this. I love connecting with people. I did my very first, podcast guest spot last December, and I was hooked. I loved it. I love doing this. It never occurred to me to have my own podcast. I wasn't really thinking that. And then I had a really exciting conversation just this morning with someone, and I'm like, "Oh, maybe this is coming sooner than I thought it
Oh
would
my
be." I don't
goodness.
know. I really think this is a great tool. It's a great way to connect with people that you can really bring value to a greater audience, you know?
Mhm.
I currently work one-on-one. I don't have, cohorts or groups or anything like that. I do one-on-one only. And and obviously there's only so many hours in a day, right? You can
Yeah,
only do this for so much. Um, but doing it this way, that really opens it up to a whole new world, whole
sure.
new audience, more ways that you can work with people. So,
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that's on the horizon, kinda crusting the horizon.
Okay. Exciting.
Yeah, yeah. I'd love to write a book. That's another one, but that I feel like is, a little further down the road. That's commitment that
Yeah.
I'm kinda not ready to commit to yet.
Got it. Maybe the podcasting is like the 6-month plan and the book is maybe the 3 to
Yeah.
5-year plan.
Yeah, it's
So
definitely further down the road, yeah. But, I think sometimes we also have to really, again, you only have so many hours in a day. Like, where
Right.
is that energy and time best spent, right?
Yeah.
Um, Something I say to my clients a lot because they, oh, well, I got to be on. Oh, you probably hear this one more than I do. Oh, I got to be on this platform and this social media. Oh, and I got to jump on this new one, and I got to do
Yes.
this, and I got to do more videos, and I got to do reels and everything. And you're like, you can't.
Yeah.
Like, you can't be doing everything.
Mhm.
So I think we have to be a little more strategic. Where is
Mhm.
that energy best spent? Um, so I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Smart.
be
Yes. Be strategic. Be
yes,
strategic. Excellent business advice,
yeah,
to be sure.
for sure.
Um, We've been talking with Anna Ludwinowski or Ludwinowski. Did I say that right?
Litvinowski. Yep,
Ludwinowski.
yep.
Okay, great. I want to make sure I don't butcher your last name.
No,
So,
not at
okay,
all.
good. And you're listening to the Business Pioneer podcast. Anna, for people that are interested in getting more information about you or
Mhm.
potentially working with you, how can they get a hold of you?
Absolutely. Oh gosh. Well, I live on LinkedIn, so
Hmm.
that is absolutely the best place to find me, and ironically, I'm the only Anna Ludwinowski on the, platform, so I should be pretty easy to find. You can also reach me on my website, which is, just been rebranded, so I'm pretty excited about that, annaludwinowski.com. So pretty easy to find me.
Amazing. And for
Yeah.
those people who aren't 100% sure, can you please spell Ludwinowski for us?
Absolutely. Yep, and it's Anna with 2 N's, which I
Oh,
know
good,
I get
good.
asked that a lot too, which is surprising. And Ludwinowski, Ludwinowski. Pretty easy.
Fantastic. Great. Anna, this has been an absolute pleasure. I've thoroughly
Oh,
enjoyed our
thank
conversation
you.
and really, really appreciate you being a guest
Oh,
on the
this was
Business Pioneer
awesome.
podcast.
I really enjoyed it as I knew I would. So thank you for having me on, and this was great. Really,
All
I could do
right,
this forever.
fantastic. Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. You take care now.
All right, see you
All
later.
right, bye now.
Bye.